ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਅੱਜ 7 ਜੂਨ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਹਿਮ ਦਿਨ ਹੈ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ 6 ਜੂਨ 1984 ਵਾਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਮਹਾਨ ਯੋਧੇ ਸੰਤ ਬਾਬਾ ਜਰਨੈਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਭਿੰਡਰਾਂਵਾਲੇ, ਬਾਬਾ ਅਮਰੀਕ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ, ਜਨਰਲ ਸਬੇਗ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਅਣਗਿਣਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੇ ਸਿੰਘਣੀਆਂ 6 ਜੂਨ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਸਨ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਬਚੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਗ੍ਰਿਫਤਾਰ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਸੀ। ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਉਹ ਦਿਨ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਰਮ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਸਥਾਨ, ਰੂਹਾਨੀਅਤ ਦੇ ਕੇਂਦਰ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿਮੰਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਵਿਖੇ ਪਰਿਕਰਮਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਢੇਰ ਲੱਗ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਸੀ। ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਭਰੇ ਹੋਏ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਨੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈ, ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਰਿਮੰਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ 1984 ਦਾ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਪੜ੍ਹਿਆ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤ ਸੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਰੂਹਾਨੀਅਤ ਦੇ ਕੇਂਦਰ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਹੁਕਮਾਂ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਚੌਥੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਧੰਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਨਗਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਵਸਾਇਆ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਧੰਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਰਜਨ ਦੇਵ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਵਾਈ, ਸਰੋਵਰ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਵਾਈ ਤੇ ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਹਰਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਅਕਾਲ ਤਖਤ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਥੀਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਸਿਰਜਣਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਤੇ 7 ਜੂਨ 1984 ਦਾ ਉਹ ਦਿਹਾੜਾ ਸੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਢੇਰ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ। ਉੱਪਰੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੂਨ ਦੀ ਉਹ ਗਰਮੀ ਦੇ ਦਿਨ, ਸੋ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੇਖਿਆ, ਆਪਣੀ ਅੱਖੀਂ ਡਿੱਠਾ ਹਾਲ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਰੋਤ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੀ ਹਾਲਤ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਚੋਂ ਬਦਬੂ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ। ਇੰਨੀ ਬਦਬੂ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਹਾਲ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਬੁਰਾ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੱਥ ਲਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਤਾਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਗਲੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨਿਕਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਸੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਉੱਪਰ DDT ਦੇ ਸਪਰੇਅ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ। ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਫਾਈ ਕਰਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪਲ ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਕਰਮਚਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਾਰਜ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਸੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੱਕ ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤੀ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਹੈ, ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤੀ ਇਸ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਕਰਮਚਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਜੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣ ਦੇ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਵੀ ਮਾਰੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇੰਨੀ ਬਦਸਲੂਕੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ, ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣ ਦੀ ਲਾਸ਼ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਗੁਲਾਮੀ ਦਾ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਕਰਵਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੰਸਕਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਬੇਪੱਤੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੰਨਿਆਂ ਵਾਂਗ ਟਰਾਲੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਸੁੱਟਿਆ ਗਿਆ। ਸੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਨੇ, ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਵਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੁਲਾਮੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਵੀ ਜੂਝਣਾ ਪਿਆ। 1947 ਦੀ ਵੰਡ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਲਾਮੀ ਦਾ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਕਰਵਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ 84 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਅਜੇ ਅੱਜ 36 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਪੀੜਾ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਸੈਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਖੈਰ, ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧਾਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਸਪੀਕਰਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਸ਼ਖਸੀਅਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਕਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ, ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ UK ਤੋਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਐਜੂਕੇਟਰ ਭਾਈ ਜਗਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਭਾਈ ਜਗਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਚੈਰਿਟੀ UK, ਖਾਲਸਾ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ, ਖਾਲਸਾ ਕੈਂਪਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਵਰਲਡ ਸਿੱਖ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਦੀ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਤੇ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰਕ ਨੇ, ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤੇ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਜੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਰੋਨਾ ਵਾਇਰਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਰੀਓਪਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਬੜੇ ਟੌਪਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਵੀਡੀਓਜ਼ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਬਣਾਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਸੋ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ, ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣੇ ਮੈਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇਖੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਹੀ ਮਹੀਨਾ ਹੈ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ 84 ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਜੂਨ ਦਾ ਮਹੀਨਾ ਹੈ, ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਿਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵਲੂੰਦਰੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਸ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਨੇ, ਜੋ ਸਾਡਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸੇ ਲੜੀ ਨੂੰ ਵਧਾਉਂਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਦੇਖਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਈਕੀ ਹੈ, ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਾਨਸਿਕਤਾ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਵੈਂਟਸ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਖੜੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜੀ।
Before we start on this, ਆਪਾਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ because
ਜੀ
UK ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਡੇਟ ਕੱਢਤੀ ਆ ਕਿ 15 ਜੂਨ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਖੁੱਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਅਤੇ
ਜੀ
ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਕੰਟਰੀਆਂ 'ਚ ਹੁਣ ਛੇਤੀ ਇਹ ਕੈਸਕੇਡ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਖੁੱਲ ਜਾਣਾ। ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਣਾਏ ਆ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਐਂਡ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼, ਮੈਂ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਆ ਉਹ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰੋ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਈਡੀਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸੈਟਅਪ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਇਨ ਅ ਪੋਸਟ ਕੋਵਿਡ
ਜੀ
ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਬਚਾਉਣਾ ਆ ਅਤੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੀ ਲੇਆਊਟ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਸੋ
ਜੀ
ਉਹ because in the next 7 to 10 days ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੋਣੀ ਆ।
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ
coming 84 ਹੁਣ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੈਨੋਸਾਈਡਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੋਈਆਂ and
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ
I'm going to be talking this in a very global context. ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖੀ ਗਿਆ ਨਾ, ਮੈਜੋਰਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਐਜੂਕੇਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਨ ਸਕੂਲਸ, ਉਹ ਵਰਲਡ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ, ਉਹ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਆ
ਜੀ
ਹਨਾ। ਅਤੇ ਔਨ ਵਰਲਡ ਵਾਈਡ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਆਉਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਆ। ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਕੂਲ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਟਸ ਆਲ ਫੈਕਟਸ ਐਂਡ ਇਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਫੈਕਟਸ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਆ। ਯੂਰ ਇਨ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ Captain Cook discovered Australia. He didn't
ਜੀ
because Japanese were there beforehand. So there was people that were non-white that were ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਪਰ because ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗਲੋਬਲ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਸਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਵਾਈਟ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਆ। ਆਪਣਾ ਇਦਾਂ ਉਹ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੋਰੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਗੋਰੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇਹ
ਜੀ
ਚੇਂਜ ਹੁੰਦੀ when you study history, history study karna bahut important here because the lessons of the future you can see from the history of the past.
ਜੀ
And we've had many genocides. Anna, in schools ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ in World War II German what the Nazi party did to the Jews and or Holocaust here. But the world's biggest Holocaust actually happened in America to the American
ਜੀ
Aztecs, the Incas, etc. And all the time, ਜਿੰਨੀ ਵੀ times ਇਹਦਾ genocide ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆ and India ਨੂੰ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਇਹਦਾ genocide ਆਈ ਆ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ the Buddhists, they were all killed en masse by the Shankarcharyas of the Hindus, and then the etc. So there's certain steps to genocide. Genocide ਦਾ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਦਿਓ ਹਨਾ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰੀਦਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੈਮਰੀ ਵੀ ਮਾਰ ਦਿਓ।
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ
And this so you destroy, and if you go on to slide 2, I've got the exact quote there. You destroy the books, you destroy its culture, you destroy its history, and then have someone new rewrite new books, manufacture a new culture, invent a new history. Before long, that nation will forget what it is and what it was. The struggle of man against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting. So this is why in UK and abroad, ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਹ ਫਰੇਜ਼ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ, never forget 84. ਇਹ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ because basically ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਭੁੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ। If we look in ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ, the ਨੌਜਵਾਨਸ that stood up, they did it for ਪੰਜਾਬ ਹਨਾ। ਪੰਜਾਬ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਸੀਗਾ and I just put some facts here. So I'm just going to keep ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਫੈਕਟ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਣਾ ਆ, ਫਿਰ ਬਾਅਦ ਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਡੀਅנס ਆ ਉਹ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ where their thinking is in terms of absorbing the facts and taking it away with them. So basically, India as a nation never existed. There was separate. Punjab was a nation in itself. Maharashtra was a nation in itself. Tamil areas were a nation in themselves. The only people that brought India together were the British because for administrative reasons. But separate nation. So people think that us India no azad kita etc. No, we basically were there to azad Punjab, and the other people around the country were azading themselves. They were separate nations. India actually only became an official nation in 1947. Before then, the concept of India didn't exist. People would call it Hindustan, people would call it various other things. But ਜਿਹੜਾ concept ਹੈ ਉਹ 1947 ਚੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਇਆ and it was just basically a handover from the Gore, who for administrative reasons, and jere Gorean da jera role has been very dubious over history. If we look at the Middle East in terms of dividing up the Kurds, Iran, Iraq, etc., ਇਹ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਲਕੀਰਾਂ ਪਾਈਆਂ ਸੀ, ਹਜੇ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ Hajibi, in terms of Jerusalem and all them areas, there's been long conflicts in terms of these areas between Canada, America, and Mexico. There was a lot of history of European colonization, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ issues ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ create ਕੀਤੇ ਆ. So this is the whole thing. We can never forget 84 because ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਿਆ because of ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਫਿਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉੱਥੇ drugs ਲਿਆਂਦੇ, which is the same policy that the CIA, FBI used against black people in America. The problem with drugs is ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ nation ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ drugs ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ, they have no boundaries. They do not stay to one particular area. So ਉਹ drugs ਹੁਣ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਖਿਲਰ ਗਏ, ਹਨਾ? Same way ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਕਾਲੀ community ਚ ਪਾਏ ਸੀਗੇ, so that you would have, instead of the Black Panther Party, you would basically have the Crips and the other gangs, and they started going through. But that drugs they ਸਾਰੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਚ ਫੈਲ ਗਏ. In the same way, drugs ਪਾਏ ਸੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, and ਪੰਜਾਬ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਉਹ drugs ਹੁਣ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਚ ਹੀ ਫੈਲ ਗਏ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਦਿੱਲੀ areas and everything else. Same thing now ਹੁਣ ਕਸ਼ਮੀਰ ਚ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਆ, where mass level drugs. The third policy ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ is immigration. ਕਿ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ make sure that no jobs are created in Punjab, ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ next generation ਸਾਰੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਭੱਜਣ for their futures. ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ deep up ethnic cleansing ਹੋਵੇ, but done through immigration, that basically the people just want to leave. And that has been the most successful policy, more than genocide, more than drugs, that's been used against the people of Punjab. That just through immigration, they will just slow. So just this year, ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਾਂ, 140,000 students have gone to Canada alone, not including UK, not including Australia, just from Punjab going to Canada alone. 140,000 students have gone. So this is the way they're using these things. But then what they did is they used the music industry so that you would stop talking about Sikhi, stop talking about Sikhs, and so that everybody in Punjab just talks about Jats and just all about Jat culture and drinking and guns and all this other stuff. So constantly feeding the population so that the next generation, all they think about is singers, all they think about is this caste system set up, and etc., and no mention of Sikhi and Sikh rights. Now, the people that are behind these policies have been quite successful. So the Hindu ਰਹਿ ਗਏ ਆ, but my question to them is, ਠੀਕ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਲਿਆ, ਠੀਕ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ, because this started off with water rights, it started off with educational rights, it started off with the Capitol building, it started off with how we can basically listen to Kirtan from Darbar Sahib on national radio, and all the acts that Sikhs wanted. But ਠੀਕ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਮਾਰ ਲਿਆ, but now you're still living in Punjab, which is basically suffering from lack of water, because although water nahi ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ, now you're living in a Punjab where there's a lot of cancer belts. You're living in Punjab where all the things ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਉਠਾਈ ਸੀਗੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਤਾ. ਹੁਣ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਤਾ, ਹੁਣ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਕਿਹਨੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਆ? What have you inherited? Because it's basically the lack of industry, the lack of jobs. And I'll give you an example of this. In the book of Khushwant Singh, in Khushwant Singh's book called Sikhs Unlimited, ਉਹਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ basically ਜਦੋਂ Narasimha Rao, when he was basically in 84 the time ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਇੰਦਰਾ ਗਾਂਧੀ ਦੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੀਗਾ, and he's very low. ਉਦੋਂ ਉਹ in 1984 ਜਦੋਂ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ, ਉਹ ਉਦੋਂ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਸੀਗਾ, ਹੋਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਸੀਗਾ. ਹੁਣ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਆ since the 1950s, because ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਲਕੱਤੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਸੀ, ਹੋਰ ਥਾਂ ਵੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਾਨੇ ਚ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ, communal riots. So ਦਿੱਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਏਦਾਂ ਸੈਟਅਪ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ within half an hour to an hour ਉਹ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਬੰਦ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ. They've had 70s these setups. Eventually in 1984 ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ enact ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ, Narasimha Rao ਨੇ enact ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ, ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋਵੇ over the next 3 to 4. So ਜਦੋਂ Narasimha Rao prime minister ਬਣਿਆ ਸੀ later on, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਤੋਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਗੋਰੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਐਂਡ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀ we want to create call centers in ਪੰਜਾਬ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਸ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਜੌਬਾਂ ਦੇਣੀਆਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਸੋ we
ਹੂੰ,
need to have an internet hub etc ਅਸੀਂ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ
ਜੀ
ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਨਰਸਿਮਹਾ ਰਾਓ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੇਣੀ because basically because he wanted to give the jobs to the Hindu belt. He didn't want them
ਰਾਈਟ
to go to job. So ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ ਦੇਣਾ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੰਗਲੌਰ ਚ ਬਣਾਓ
ਹੂੰ
So Bangalore now has 2 to 3 million jobs, well-paid jobs, etc., which went to the Hindu belt when it should have come to Chandigarh and it should have come to Punjab and Haryana and that area, because that is where the people that brought this technology to India wanted it. So there's been many of these kind of discriminations, and we can see that the thing. But I'm now just going to go over to a couple of things. So I'm going over, if we go to slide 9, I know Benji, you're sharing some of these slides. If we go to slide, so this is what the actual,
ਸ਼ੋ
so this is how Punjab's been decimated. So if
ਜੀ
we look, ask karke for the Naujawans, because I feel probably, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, Hannah, I feel that the youth of Australia and New Zealand are maybe not as educated on these topics as they could be. We had the same problem ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਦੋਂ UK ਚ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ in the 1990s ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਆ like myself who are UK born ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗਾ they heard the word 84 they heard the word Khalistan but it was confusion and their parents intentionally didn't talk about these things because it brought back too many bad memories. So
ਰਾਈਟ
so what happened in the 1990s and especially in the year 2000s, Das did these presentations, which are 4 parts. There's 4 lectures here, which is called Understanding Modern Sikh History. Well, covering just snippets from part 2. So basically what that is part 1 is the story of 1978. That's part 1 by Fauja Singh and Tera Singhs that were Shaheed. Part 2 from 1947 to 1984 and what actually happened in 1984. Part 3 is what happened in Delhi and the other cities in November 1984. And part 4 is what happened between 1984 to 1995. Ki us time de vich ki hoya si. So if we go back to slide 9, which is the Punjab decimated. So jere apne naujwan, they can have a look at this. And this is what we need to do is that because we talked about these things and then it came on the TV channels, etc. Then what happened in UK, you went from a couple of thousand or 4 or 5,000 people coming to 84 marches in London to the high point where I've seen up to 40,000 Najwans in London, and you can see the pictures. And ones now in UK are very much understanding and clued up on what actually happened to Sikhs. So if you look at this picture to all the Najwans, this is our nation of Punjab. We were a separate nation. There was a treaty between the British and the Punjab nation that it would be handed over back as a nation. And we were given this chance in 1946. We made a lot of mistakes. And the biggest nuksan that's ever happened to our Qawm happened in 1947. So it's not just the Punjab that was given to Pakistan, and you can see that's probably 2/3 of it. But then there's also later on Himachal Pradesh, which you can see that is part of original Punjab. Haryana, which went all the way down to New Delhi there, that is part of original Punjab. So the Punjab that we know now, the Punjab that many of your Najwans there, when they go on their holidays, is now less than 1/5 of the original Punjab. And when we call it the land of 5 rivers, the Punjab that you go to now only has 2 rivers. It's not even rivers. So the Asli Punjab, we really need to recognize what happened to Sikhs and why was this Asli Punjab taken away from Sikhs. And this is part of the story because Sikhs basically did the most. If we go to slide 6, we gave over 75% of the Qurbaniya. So people that went to prison were Sikhs. And bear in mind, we were only 2% of the population. It's on slide 6, Benji. And then in terms of people deported, 80% were Sikhs. In terms of people that got the death sentence, 80% were Sikhs. And in terms of the Indian National Army, there were 60% Sikhs. So Sikhs were 2% of the population, but majority of the Qurbaniyan were done by Sikhs of Punjab. Now, this facts were when came on, it was the President of India, Maulana Azad, he said this on national radio, the Sikh contribution in 1947. He went on national radio and he gave these statistics out. From that day, these statistics have never been mentioned ever again from the Indian government. They've never mentioned it in any Bollywood film, in any documentary or anything, because this is a whole part of erasing the real history of what happened, how India, the nation got created, what was the role of the Sikhs. Everything is done to basically build up Marathas, build up other parts of it and say that, yeah, we are the Hindus, we basically did this. And reality is anything to do with Sikhs, anything positive, is always basically forgotten in history. And unless we as Sikhs basically start bringing this history forward, it will basically be forgotten. So coming after, what happened was, even in 1960s, 1950s, the first time Sikhs were shot in Darbar Sahib was in 1955. It wasn't in 1978. In 1957, 200,000 Sikhs were protesting in Delhi against human rights abuses and discrimination. This is Benji on slide 8. In 1960 to 1967, 60,000 Sikhs were basically agitating for Punjabi language. And basically at that time, all the promises that were made to Sikhs were all forgotten, and Sikhs had to agitate for these for the next 20 years. And then 1966, they done a deal that we will only allow, so every state in India was given its designation based on its language. So in Maratha, people would speak Marathi. In Tamil Nadu, people will speak Tamil languages and various other things. In Bengal, they'll speak Bengali. Punjab was the only state that was told that you cannot speak Punjabi, you have to speak Hindi, and etc. So there's always different rules for Punjab and different rules for the rest of the country. And they said that you can only speak Punjabi in Punjab in 1966 if we split off other sections of Punjab, which is Himachal Pradesh and Haryana. So Punjab was then even made smaller, etc. And even the capital, which was Chandigarh, was then divided, because that was what was being built as the capital of Punjab, because the previous capital was Lahore. And most of our history is in Lahore. And it was only in the 1970s, and then if we go on to slide 10, that Sikhs were starting to be murdered on a mass level. The biggest and most important incident that happened at that time was 1978. But even before then, in 1975, 50,000 Sikhs. Now, just think about it. I just want to say to the Najwan, if you've ever seen in Australia a mass cricket match, maybe the Ashes between Australia and England, think about every person in that stadium is a Sikh and they get arrested. That was what was happening in 1975 to Sikhs. You know, mass level arrests were happening at that time. No one, even Sant Janel Singh and many of the other Singhs, they were not even at the fore at this time. There was so much other things happening. So in terms of understanding who Sant Janel Singh is, basically he was a young man. If we come on to slide 12, he was a young man who basically started doing prachar to stop people from smoking, drinking, doing drugs. He was saying them to read Gurbani and basically have more self-respect. During the time he did prachar, he was very popular in Punjab. And there's a number of statistics that I will share. But what happened was, because Sikhs were agitating, and the thing that changed Sant Janel Singh in terms of just doing prachar, which was what he was doing before, then what he started talking about was human rights abuses, was what happened in 1978. So he had a lot of PR and a lot of satkar for Bhai Jagjit Singh and the other Gursikhs that were shaheed there. He himself was there at the beginning, and then he was also there with the bodies. Pictures can be seen with him, with the bodies of Bhai Jagjit Singh and everything else. So from that point on, because there was now an open challenge with the Nirankaris, who were set up by Indira Gandhi, but this is a separate topic in itself, that Sant Janel Singh then started talking about human rights. So I'm just going to share some facts with you. So in some of the speeches of Sant Janel Singh, which I took clips of, and we're going now on to slide 14. So Sant Janel Singh, this is just in 1983. These are the amount of Sikh Naujwans that were being killed in police cells, etc. And most of them were students. So most of this kind of understanding of what's happening to Sikhs was in the universities. And many of your Naujawans that were maybe watching this are maybe just graduated or graduating or about to start university. So these were Naujawans of their age. The first Naujawan that was killed in a police cell was by Kulwant Singh Nagoke. And so during that time, so in just February 1983, Sant Janel Singh said that 113 Naujawans have been killed in 1 month by police in Punjab. In July, it was 140. And in the later months of 1983, it was up to 200 Naujawans were being killed in police cells. And over 2,000 returned as cripples from the torture that was happening in police cells. So again, this is slide 14, Benji. So basically here, what he's actually saying is even before 1984 happened, this was what was happening to students all over Punjab. 2,000 had been crippled from police torture in cells. You know, every month, figures of over 100, 140 were being killed. And then what happened was incidents happened at Chowk Mehta, etc. And various other people like Lala and Jagat Narayan were causing issues in the communities so that it would basically cause issues between Sikhs and Hindus, where they were constantly saying, in Punjab, we're not here to speak Punjabi, we're going to speak Hindi. And they're saying to Sikhs constantly that you can't even speak your language here. So, and then what happened is that the demonization of Punjabis started happening, particularly of Sant Janel Singh and anyone else that was fighting for Sikh rights. And much of this was not fact-based. So many of the parents of the Naujawan will not talk about 84, or they've been given a narrative. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਦਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਮਾਰੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਇਹਨੇ ਸਾਧ ਨੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਰਵਾ ਦੇਣਾ. These kind of rhetorics were constantly being pushed out. And even in the psyche of a lot of Sikhs, they fell into this kind of propaganda. So there was a Punjab government document which basically talked about the number of murders that were happening at that time. And this was in 1981. So let me give you some statistics here. In another state called Uttar Pradesh, during 1981, there was 5,068 murders. And in 1980, so we're going on to slide 15 now, Benji. So in 1980, there was 5,422 murders. So this was what happened in Uttar Pradesh. So there's 5,000 odd murders. If you consider that what was happening in Punjab in 1980, there was only 620 murders. And in 1981, there was 544 murders. So this is the own Indian government statistics. But from all of them murders, 620 and 544 in 1980 and 91, out of all of them, only in 11 cases was there a case where someone even looked like a Sikh. So if you can look at that, only 11 cases were happened in Punjab where someone looked like a Sikh. But in Uttar Pradesh, there's 5,000 cases year after year of murder. But in the press, it was like Sara jera rola hai Punjab de vich, nothing is happening in the rest of India. It was all about Punjab. And that's why even at that time, Sant Janel Singh said, even if someone's cat or dog dies, they will say Pindramwale's done it. So basically, everything was done. Propaganda was constantly done that something's wrong with these Sikhs. These Sikhs are doing something. So at that time, Sant Janel Singh was actually arrested. And he was arrested, but then Gyani Jail Singh, who was the Home Minister at that time, on October 15th, had to go into Parliament and said, I'm not sure why you've arrested him. He's not even committed any crime. There's no FIR against him. He's never committed a crime. So why have you arrested him? And therefore, he had to be released. So the rhetoric that they constantly put out is that why we had to go in there to basically get Sant Janel Singh out. They'd only a couple of years earlier had actually arrested him, but there's nothing, he'd not done anything wrong. And it was this kind of demonization that was constantly being done because they knew that Sikhs were asking for genuine rights, human rights, promises that were made to us. And it was not for us as a Sikh nation, it was more for us as a Punjabi nation in terms of water rights, in terms of educational rights, in terms of human rights, in what was happening in terms of our Naujawans in universities. These were very simple things that we were asking for. And instead, what they did was they set up sects like the Nirankaris to the point, and it constantly inciting Sikhs. So like the Nirankari Gurbachana, there's reports of him actually putting his foot on the Guru Granth Sahib, which is what sparked off a lot of the things in terms of the disrespect that they were doing to the Guru Granth Sahib, to our history and everything else, which is what led to all the things that led up to 1978. So now if we come on to Operation Bluestar, I'm going to share you some facts. So in our lifetime, and again, I'm talking to the Najwan now in Australia and New Zealand. If we go on to slide 17, Benji. So where it says Operation Bluestar begins. So just to give you some context, some of our Najwans, you will probably remember the Iraq War, Operation Desert Storm. Now, Iraq is probably, I would assume, at least 10 times bigger than Punjab. And I'm just basically in terms of the size of the country of Iraq. But in the whole of Operation Desert Storm, there was 80,000 troops, American troops, went to Iraq, the coalition with the British and everything else. So just to put that in context, what happened in 1984, 150,000 Indian troops went to Punjab. So almost double the number of people that went to Operation Desert Storm. This was the amount of troops that basically went into Punjab. And they basically cut off all the radio stations, all the newspapers and everything. Now, because we're going to talk about Operation Bluestar, when I wrote these presentations, I done them for Gurdwaras that what we would consider as congressy. And I've done these lectures in Muslim Gurdwara because what happens is too many Khalistanis just talk to Khalistanis. And no one really takes this message out to the wider world. And so when in the 1990s and year 2000, when I was doing these lectures in Gurdwara, that was the idea, is to basically, let's just educate everybody and then people can come to their own conclusions. So what I'm going to show you now, because when you talk about these topics, you have a Khalistani bias on one side where people will talk about with emotion and everything else, Sadinal ah ho gaya. And then on the other side, you have an Indian government bias. So the things that I'm going to talk to you about here and the slides that I'm going to share with you are not from a Khalistani bias or an Indian bias. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take reports from Western newspapers, well-known newspapers like the New York Times, the Guardian in UK, the Times newspaper in UK, the Christian Science Monitor, various other things. And then what you can do is people can see for themselves from a neutral point of view what actually happened. And then from there, people can make up their own mind in terms of what was really happening. So we're going to do this quite in a hurried way because of time. But I would urge in maybe in the future, we have a more lengthy discussion on all of this, if that's what the Najwan want. So according to this, so the Christian Science Monitor on the 8th of June, 1984, they said that basically the whole of Punjab was under curfew. The whole of its 5,000 villages and 50 neighbor cities were turned into concentration camp. And the rules were whatever the Indian army and its political decision makers decided. All journalists were expelled, no newspapers, trains or buses, even a bullock cart can't move. If we go on to the next one, in the spokesman, basically they said that they basically only went in to get Bhindranwale out. And they originally approached another general, which was General S.K. Sina, and he actually said to him, no, that's totally wrong. He goes, anyone who's ever attacked Darbar Sahib has never come off right. And look at the history. He goes, I don't want anything to do with this. What you're doing, he said to Indira Gandhi, is totally wrong. But when he actually went on in 1984, when the attack happened, he was so appalled by it, he basically went into the newspapers and he told them that she'd been planning this for the last 2 years. It's got nothing to do with Bhindranwale. It's about basically showing the Sikhs of Punjab that you have no place in India, that basically we want you out, because during emergency, when in the 1970s, when she wanted to be a dictator and the whole country is put in a state of emergencies because she lost the elections, only the Sikhs were speaking up against her, and 50,000 Sikhs were arrested at that time. And that was basically to save the democratic future of India. Sikhs made that step, but because they made that step, she basically then had a dushmani with Sikhs. That's why she pushed the Nirankari sect and everything else. And if we look at it, at that point when the emergency happened, Modi and all these BJP leaders that now run India, they were basically hiding dressed as Sikhs. And there's pictures of Modi with a dastar, with a dari bani, etc. And he was hiding out as Sikhs so that they wouldn't be arrested during that period. Although they were basically cowards, and they're now running India, and the people that were brave, the Sikhs of Punjab and Delhi and all the other states, they were the 50,000 to be arrested. And as a result, Indira Gandhi from 1982 had been planning how she's going to do this operation against Sikhs. So if we now go on to the next slide, how armed were the Sikhs? So slide 21. So at that time, Gyani Jail Singh, etc., they put out loads of guns, etc. And these were not guns of the Sikhs. These were the guns of the Indian army that were planted for the press. And this was clear. The journalists are actually saying this in the quotes. The Sikhs were very poorly armed. They only had a small number of arms, and they were very poor quality. But because General Shebeg Singh was such an expert in what he was capable of doing, that's why 200 to 300 Gursikhs from Damdi Tiksal with Sant Janel Singh and Babbar Khalsa and Kankirni Jatha and various other groups that were there, these 200 to 300 Sikhs that they thought they were going to basically take out of Darbar Sahib in probably 2 to 3 hours. In fact, they couldn't do it in 2 to 3 days. And eventually they had to get helicopter gunships and tanks to come in and just blow the whole of Akal Takht up, which you can see in the pictures, etc. That's how they had to do it because of what had happened. Sorry, I'm just going through this now. So the next thing in slide 23. Now, the other thing that they constantly say is, we did this to flush out Pindramwale. And I've already said that basically Sant Janel Singh was actually arrested. He courted arrest himself on the 20th September. So Penji, if we go to slide 23, the next one. So he actually courted arrest on the 20th of September 1981. So he was already arrested by them, but they had nothing. There was nothing against him. And Joyce Pettigrew, who was a scholar from Canada, she said the army went into the Darbar Sahib not to eliminate a political figure or a political movement, but to suppress the culture of a people, to attack their heart, to strike a blow at their spirit and self-confidence. So if a person had offered himself for arrest on the 20th of September 1981, and then he was freed, and the Home Minister goes into Parliament and says, look, the guy's done nothing wrong. I don't even know what this hysteria is all about. But because Indira Gandhi, Lala Jagat Ram was constantly generating this hysteria, so if they were going to basically arrest Sant Janel Singh, why did they attack 42 other Gurdwara on the same day? And why attack? There's 5 Gurpurabs in Darbar Sahib, which are very busy. You can't walk in Darbar Sahib on them days. Obviously, Vaisakhi is one, Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab, Guru Ramdas Ji's Gurpurab, but another one of them 5 is Guru Arjan Dev Ji Shahidi Purab. Yeah, so these are one of the 5 days which is so busy in Darbar Sahib, you can't even walk. You know, it takes hours and hours just to matha take. And Darbar Sahib is busy on most days anyway. So why attack on one of the 5 when you have 356 whatever days in a year? Why attack on the very day when you know it's one of the 5 most busiest? And why attack on 42 other Gurdwaras? Not just people were killed in Darbar Sahib, but hundreds of Sikhs were killed in many of these other Gurdwaras. Why destroy the Sikh reference library? So in terms of on that day, the majority of Sikhs, when they said 10,000 shoes in Jora Khana in Darbar Sahib, no one came and claimed them. That's how many bodies were disappeared. And I'm going to talk later on in this how these bodies were disappeared. So 10,000 pairs of shoes, no one could find the owners of them. And this is the amount of people that are disappearing. So if we go on to slide 24, so there was hundreds of Singhs and Singhaniya led by Baba Janel Singh, by Amrik Singh, General Shebeg Singh on one side, and then from Baba Atal Rai, there was Gursikhs like Jathedar Sukhdev Singh Babbar and Bhai Jagjit Singh, etc. And many of them were fighting these 15,000 troops. So in total, there was 150,000 troops in Punjab, but just in the Darbar Sahib complex, which is not that big, and just in that one complex, there was 15,000 troops of the Indian government, which they had army tanks, helicopter gunships, And also we should recognize this is June de mahine siga, and basically it was very hot temperatures. And the Darbar Sahib Sarovar, 2 days before the attack, the Darbar Sahib Sarovar was poisoned, and anyone drinking from the Darbar Sahib Sarovar, so the SGPC has on its records has things that 2 days before people were dying in the Sarovar, and when they were going for Ishnan and drinking the water. So a notice was put out, do not drink anything from the Sarovar because it had been poisoned. A number of people, pilgrims, armed Sikhs had died just from drinking pani from the Sarovar. So that had been poisoned. So the Valiant Gursikhs, if we go now on to slide 25, so it just shows pictures of some of the Gursikhs. So these are Gursikhs from Nagoke Pend who were with Sant Janel Singh, and you can see Sant Janel Singh doing one of his last speeches there in Manji Hall. And I'd also say to people that tonight at 9 o'clock in UK, we're going to be broadcasting the last Renswai before 84 attack. And in that Renswai Kirtan, which is going to be broadcast in UK tonight at 9 o'clock, you're going to see all of these Gursikhs were sitting there. Sant Janel Singh walks in with all the Gursikhs, Bhai Jagjit Singh, all these Gursikhs are sitting in Gurbani, getting the food for their soul. The Babbar Khalsa Gursikhs that were all fighting there, they're all sitting there, and you'll see a mass of 40, 50 Dharmale that were orange on one side. And all of them were getting their spiritual food before their Shahidniya. So coming on, next slide, 26, because it's important to do give respect to these Gursikhs because they gave their everything. So as I wrote on social media this morning, every time you go to Darbar Sahib, think about when you walk on the marble in the Parakarmya, you're not just walking on marble. Underneath that marble is the cease, the heads and the bloods of thousands of Gursikhs that have been shaheed to protect Sri Harmandir Sahib. First, it was Gursikhs like Bhai Gurbaksh Singh and many other Gursikhs from our history. So many at the time of Ahmad Shah Abdali when he attacked. So many times in our history, Gursikhs have been shaheed at Sri Amritsar, Harmandir Sahib, etc. complex. And these are the Gursikhs that have joined them. So people like Bhai Amrik Singh, General Shabeg Singh, Bhai Menga Singh, etc. Ragi Avtar Singh Babbar, he basically, inside when the attack happened, because no one else could come, he was basically carried on. He wanted to carry on Maryada. So for 72 hours, he carried on doing Kirtan, him and other Gursikhs. And eventually he was shot in the legs and he was shot in the chest, etc. And that's when the Kirtan stopped. So throughout the attack, Kirtan was carrying on from inside because of Bhai Avtar Singh, who was Shaheed. Bhai Anok Singh, he basically used a complex system of sewers because there were so many thousands of innocent Sangat that had just come from Gurpurb. They knew nothing about what was happening in Operation Bluestar. They knew nothing about any of this stuff. So no one was having water. No one could have anything. And Bhai Anok Singh, he was basically smuggling out children, women, Buzurgs, and we have from Sikh Relief a few years ago, videos were done from some of these people that were saved by Gursikhs like Bhai Anok Singh because of the way he smuggled them out through the side buildings and etc. So on one side, the Gursikhs are fighting all of this army. On the other side, the same Gursikhs are also trying to save as much Sangat as possible, etc. And they saved hundreds of people's lives during that time. So then we go on to slide 29. So basically the Indian army, and the next slide, Benji, if we go on to there, the Indian army thought that the operation would last for 6 hours. In reality, it lasted for many days. So 15,000 troops were fighting a couple of hundred Gursikhs, and the 15,000 troops had tanks and helicopter gunships. And it also should be noted that there was one family, it was from a Hindu background, but they had taken Amrit, and they had two daughters, which is called Bibi Wahiguru Kaur and Bibi Satnam Kaur. And their father and their mother, they took out one of these tanks where Baba Deep Singh, there's a small shrine to one side of the Parakarmya where Baba Deep Singh is dedicated to Shaheed Baba Deep Singh. At that place, the tank couldn't go past there. And this family was the one that took that tank out. They were Shaheed themselves. All four members of that family gave their Shaheediyah for that. So on the last day, because it had been 3 days now, they just let loose with the helicopter gunships and they let loose with the tanks. And if you look at the Akal Takht Sahib picture, you'll see big holes in the roof and the side, etc. But these Gursikhs were there still fighting. Now, the next slides are very important. This was taken by a young Singh after the operation happened. And he was basically, he made his way in through the sewer system with a camera, and he specifically took pictures of what was the scene at that time. Because afterwards, if you look at any other, there's no pictures. The press, the journalists were all taken out. So he was the only one that managed to get these pictures. So if we look at the next slide, Benji, slide 30, and carry on over these slides now. So you see, this is Sri Harmandir Sahib with all the doors, the windows shut, because Ragi Avtar Singh was doing Kirtan, and eventually the army went in and shot Ragi Avtar Singh in there. But this is where the Kirtan was carrying on, and you can see the blood on the Parkarmya, and the whole Sarovar was also full of blood as well. This is a picture, the next slide is a picture of Sri Akal Takht Sahib, and you can see smoke coming out, etc. And this was the key part of the battle where many of the Gursikhs were shaheed. Sant Janel Singh and many of the Gursikhs were actually shaheed at the lower part of Sri Akal Takht Sahib near the well. This is a front of Sri Akal Takht Sahib on the next slide, which is, you can see. And so this is where our Takht is. And every time the Akal Takht Sahib has been attacked, the Gursikhs of the Panth put another floor on. So if you look at the original building from Guru Sahib Sri Guru Hargobind Sahib's time, every time it had been attacked, so whether it was through Abdali or the Mughals, etc., and now with the Indian government, every time it rises up further. And that's the way that we think as a Panth, our psyche, that if you attack our Akal Takht Sahib, it will come back, but it will come back bigger and stronger. And then, so at that time, if we go to the next slide, this is from the New Statesman magazine. On the 4th of June, the day of the pilgrimage, the Sikhs, when thousands had gathered in Darbar Sahib complex, army tanks moved into the complex, smashing the sanctum and shooting everybody in sight. Those left alive were prevented from leaving the building. Many wounded were left to bleed to death. And when they begged for water, army Jawans told them to drink a mixture of blood and urine on the floor. So this is a statement from the New Statesman on 16th November 1984. So I'm going to go through many of these statements. This is Amrit Wilson. So this is, like I said, not from a Khalistani bias or an Indian government bias. This is from purely other Western things here in terms of their own viewpoints. The next slide you'll see in 34, slide 34. So the Najwans and General Bra will constantly say, we covered our heads, we didn't do anything. But you will see here, they were basically smoking, drinking, the amount of booze that was given to these army Jawans. The slide before, Benji, slide 34. So you'll see the picture of the way they were walking around themselves. And these were their own pictures that they were taking that afterwards that Sikhs who were doing research in this area had managed to get hold of. So if we go to the next one, slide 35. So it says that this is again from the Christian Science Monitor. So with dead bodies lying all around, the vast lake of the Darbar Sahib complex was transformed into a thick red of profuse blood. No attempts were made to provide assistance to the injured or dying. On Saturday, medical workers in Amritsar said soldiers had threatened to shoot them if they gave food and water to Sikh pilgrims wounded or during the attack or lying in the hospital. So even those that were taken outside and taken to hospital, the army said to the hospital doctors and nurses, you can't treat these people, and they were left to die. And that was according to the Christian Science Monitor on the 8th of June, 1984. So all of these things that I'm telling you are referenced. So then what we had is on the Kuldeep Nair's book in 1984, he said people were killed like that. No medicine was provided. In fact, no medical aid was administered at all. Many people died in camps. Neither water or medical aid was provided, nor could you even donate blood to the injured in hospitals. As it was stated, they were prisoners of war, hence no blood transfusions were permitted. The army detained, so people from the Red Cross were basically saying, we want to go in there and help these innocent people. And according to Kuldeep Nair in his book, he said the army detained volunteers from the Red Cross who wanted to help the injured, and they were taken to Jallianwala Bagh. And during that time, they said, if you move from here, we're just going to shoot you. So that's what they said to the Red Cross. And then if you go to slide 36, These are pictures of army jawans that were basically taking souvenir pictures of themselves during the attack. So this is one that this man took of himself. So if you go to the next slide. So this is Joyce Pettigrew's book, The Sikhs of Punjab, The Unheard Voices of Straight and Guerrilla Violence, page 8. The army had suffered heavy toll in the 3 days of the battle. They went berserk and killed every Sikh man, woman, and child who could be found inside the temple complex. They were hauled out over the rooms and brought into the corridors and the circumference of the temple. With their hands tied behind their backs, they were shot in cold blood. Now, this is very important because, like I said, there was over many thousands of people that had come from the Gurpurb, and many of them were taken out by Sheath by Anok Singh, etc. But that was only in the hundreds. But there were still thousands still in there, and you will now see YouTube clips of many of these people being interviewed. They're now quite bizarre, and like one I saw yesterday where a man was saying that he was a young man at that time, and further on from him there was a bibi, and she was asking for water, and then she was shot in the head, and then her child, who was like 18 months, was climbing all over her body saying mummy, mummy, and eventually the soldiers came and picked him up and shot the child in the head as well. And these were the kind of things were happening. So if we look at the next line, so if you look at the picture here, many people are seen in these pictures. Now look at this picture. This is not normal. This is not what happens when you have an attack. You will find bodies all over the place. But if you look at all of these people are in a line and they're against a wall of the Prakarmya. And what was actually happening here was the stars were used, or their chunia in terms of bibia, were used to tie their hands behind their backs. They were brought out this circumference, the rooms at the side of Darbar Sahib, where many of them were hiding, and their hands were tied against their backs, and they were lined up against the walls, and they were shot. And that's why they are now lying in that way, because that's how they were executed in that way. And if you look at the next one in slide 39, so again, now they're taking these bodies, and look at the picture in the background where the man is dragging a body by its leg. And so they were lining them up, shooting them, then they were dragging them out, where they basically put them in trucks, and then they were basically taken to crematoriums and burnt. And that's why these 10,000 shoes that we talk about, where no one was claimed, these were 10,000 people that were just disappeared. They had nothing to do with Sant Janel Singh. They had nothing to do with any of the Gursikhs that were fighting. They were just innocent Sikhs and some Hindus and maybe other people that had just come to the Darbar Sahib because it was Guru Arjan Dev Ji's Gurpurab. And they were all just annihilated in that way. So going on to the next slide. So this is, again, more quotes. This is from the Committee for Coordination of the Disappearances Punjab. So this is the second quote, page 38. Rambir Kaur, a woman school teacher, witnessed the shooting of another group of 150 people whose hands were tied behind their backs with their own turbans. And again, many of these people, so here, this is a quote from the Punjab story book. This was done by General Aurora, who was a very famous general, and Kushwant Singh, the writer from Delhi, on page 13 of their book. The Shiromani Committee Secretary Ban Singh, in the temple complex of the time of Amritsar, Operation Bluestar, on the first morning of the attack, he counted at least 70 dead bodies of old men, women, and children. So 70 old men, women, and children were taken in one truck. And he said soldiers commanded by Major continued to line up young Sikhs along the hostile corridors to be shot. So in front of his eyes, he was seeing all these things. So this is something that you will think of in Nazi Germany. This is something that you will think of in various places that genocide has happened around the world. And that's why we have to recognize what happened there was a genocide. So if you go on to the next picture, Benji, which is picture on slide 41, so you see these are the pilgrims, Sikhs, that are being sat there, and the stars have been taken off their head, and their arms are basically tied behind their back. Again, if we go on to the next one, this is the front page of Des Pardes, Punjabi newspaper in India, and you'll see he's just taken that Buzurg's, the star off, and using it to tie his hands behind their back. So this is, and the person in front of him has also got his hands tied behind their back. And this was what was happening, was that basically they were putting these people together, and then they were taking them to the Parakarmia and shooting them in a line, as we saw in the previous pictures. So these are all innocent people. So if we go to the next slide, so this is by Ram Narayan Kumar and George Schreiber in 1991 in their book, page 265, The Sikh Struggle. So they basically said the Associated Press correspondent Brahma Chalani had managed to dodge the authorities and remain in Amritsar. So all the journalists were told to leave and there was curfew, but this brave journalist stayed there. Later, he reported dead bodies were taken in municipal garbage trucks around the clock and burnt in heaps of 20 or more. One attendant in the city's crematorium told him that there was not enough wood left to burn all the bodies individually. He saw up to an estimated 50 corpses in a large garbage lorry, which was included women and children. He talked to the doctor who had been forced to sign post-mortem reports that of some of the people killed inside the temple. The doctor corroborated reports that their hands had been tied behind their backs and soldiers shot them. So it was so obvious what was happening, etc. So if we go to the next page. So in UK, the Guardian newspaper is a very well-respected newspaper. The quote in the bottom, so it basically says in the Guardian, 13th June 1984, it was a virtual massacre. A large number of women, children and pilgrims were gunned down. In the quote above, in the Sikh Messenger 1984, it says on entering the crematorium grounds, they saw literally made them sick with a sight that made them sick with horror. Grotesque piles of bodies were being burnt in open without dignity of religious rites and in so many carcasses. The bodies had all been bought by dust carts. From the number of carts, the attendant had estimated 3,300 so far had been cremated. So just in that one crematorium, 3,300 were disposed of bodies like that. And so in Oppression of Punjab, book 1985, so I'll go on to the next quote because I'm trying to rush through this. So children, even bache weren't bakshed. So go back to the one you just done, Benji, slide 45, just go back one. So even young children, this is a 3-year-old boy, and you'll see that his chest was cut open and his arm was cut off. On the back, you can see that. So this is the 13th of June, 1984, quote from a book, an article in the Sunday Times, which is a main newspaper in London. So the same doctor told journalists that the bodies of the victims were brought to the mortuary by police in municipal refuge lorries, reported that over 400 bodies, 100 were women and 15 to 20 were children under 5. One was a 2-year-old baby. The doctor said that one extremist in the pile was found to be alive and the soldiers shot and killed him. So this, even around in UK, in America, even in Australia, the press was covering this. Everybody knew, even though there was a blackout, everyone knew that there was a genocide had just taken place. So going on to the next one. So these are things that many people are not even aware of. And it's not even now, 36 years later, people still not talking about. So what had happened as soon as the Sangat had realized that the attack had started, and Sanjay Nelsing had already said that if the attack happens, then the Sangat need to rise up against these atrocities. So news had been spreading around the villages and people began marching towards Amritsar. In Golwand village, several thousand Sikhs came under Baba Bindi Chand and started walking 25 kilometers to Amritsar. So basically, these were thousands of Sikhs walking down a road towards Harmandir Sahib, basically to what they thought was just a peaceful morcha to Azad the Gurdwara, because they weren't in their mindset that such atrocities were going to happen. So what had happened is, because they're monitoring all of Punjab and 150,000 troops were monitoring Punjab, so they basically took a helicopter gunship and they basically flew over this road of Sikhs that were walking there. And within minutes, hundreds of them were just shot and killed with machine guns from the helicopter gunships. These were thousands of Sikhs that were just walking towards Sri Darbar Sahib. In Chowk Mehta, basically 75, that was attacked on the same day. 75 Sikhs were killed, 285 were arrested. Everywhere in Punjab, anyone it was shoot to sight and killed. In many places, people were killed. And then there we have another concept that happened at that time, which is what we refer to as Tarmi Faujis. So these were Sikh soldiers that were in the Indian army and couldn't believe that Indira Gandhi had taken such a step. So they basically did mutiny. They took their arms that they had and they all started going towards Amritsar. And 4,000 Sikh soldiers from all over Punjab, all over India, started trying to make their way to Punjab. And they were heavily put down. Many of them were shot. And even today, Some of them were imprisoned, and only in the recent few years, some of them are coming out of prison 30 years later, just because they wouldn't follow orders and kill Sikhs. They're what we refer to as the Dharmi Fojis. So if we go on to the next slide, Benji. So this is in the Sunday Times, 22nd June 1984, Mary Ann Weaver. So the journalist, she said thousands of people have disappeared in Punjab since the siege of the Golden Temple here 7 weeks ago. So this was not what happened in Operation Bluestar. This is the following, what we refer now to is Operation Woodrose. So this is how in them areas around the Gurdwara, the 42 Gurdwara, anyone who was 15 to 35 was just basically killed. And she's talking about this. So she says, in some villages, men between 15 and 35 were bound, blindfolded, and taken away. Their fate is unknown. In a recent tiny village of Kambala, 300 troops entered a Sikh temple during prayers, blindfolded 30 worshippers, and pushed them into the streets. According to the priest, Sant Prapal Singh, the villagers were given electric shocks and interrogated the whereabouts of Sikh militants. Gurnam Singh, a 37-year-old farmer, was held in an army camp for 13 days. Last week, his face bruised and his arms and legs dotted with burns. He said he was hung upside down and beaten. In the next one, so this is a picture of the two young Bibiyan. This is Bibi Satnam Kaur and Bibi Waheguru Kaur. These were two Bibiyan, and with their parents, they basically stopped the tank going forward in the Battle of Amritsar, in the actual Operation Bluestar. So basically, this is again from the Indian Express newspaper. So this is India's own newspapers are saying this. In the edition on the 3rd of April, 1985, it said in September, so what had happened was there were children that were in the attack and they were eyewitnesses. And what they were done is they were all taken to prison camps and they were categorized as Category A prisoners. So these were young children. And so it was social workers from throughout India created a organization where they basically wanted to free these young children. They said that basically it's wrong that they're held as Category A prisoners in there, because the reason they were held because they were eyewitnesses, and therefore they didn't want any of them to tell the world what had actually happened in Amritsar. So this is again from the Indian Express newspaper, 3rd of April 1985 edition. In September 1984, social worker Kamala Devi Chaturapande petitioned to the Supreme Court. She had to go to the Supreme Court about the detention of its most dangerous terrorists. So that's what the Indian government's saying, is that these were the most dangerous terrorists. She said these were 22 children aged between 2 years old and 16 years old that had been held in Ludhiana jail. The Supreme Court released them as innocent pilgrims. And she goes, as soon as they were released, within days, they were all rearrested, but they were all tortured and killed. So they were all wiped out, so they could never tell anybody on this earth what they had seen and witnessed. So these were children between 2 years and 16 years old. So basically, there's so much information, and this is only a little bit of it. Sikhs in UK wrote a book at that time, which is called Kristallnacht, which is basically what they were showing that what happened to Sikhs was very similar to what happened to Jews in Nazi Germany. And that book was then sent to every MP in UK Parliament and every MP in the European Parliament. This was done on the 20th anniversary, so 16 years ago. And we have so much more Khajana in terms of information. Like I said, this is just a snippet from part 2, and it's a 4-part lecture series. So where are we as Sikhs? What do we need to do now? Firstly, we have to understand we are a nation. Asi ek qaum hai, and we are a sovereign qaum. But we are a nation without a state. We had a state that was taken away from us by the British, and we should have been given back to us in 1947, but we made some mistakes then. But we still need to act like a nation. You know, we are living abroad and we're living comfortably in UK, Canada, America, Australia, but that doesn't mean that we can't operate as a nation of Sikhs, as a global diaspora. So nowhere in what is the policies being used against us is that nowhere, anywhere on this earth, they want Sikhs to be a majority. So that everywhere where we live, we are a minority. And that's what was intentionally done to Punjab. Ethnic cleansing was done in Punjab, number 1, through genocide, number 2, through drugs, number 3, through immigration. So that these 3 policies were used so that Sikhs would just be basically wiped out in Punjab. And the other thing is the music industry was used so that people will always talk about Jatpana, and a different narrative was created so that Sikhs will never talk about what Sikhi is. And that's why I intentionally say to these Naujawans, when they listen to these singers and they listen to all this other stuff, look at why is that happening? Why do they never talk about Sikhi? Why is it always Jat this, Jat that? Why is every Punjabi movie about Jat? Why is the caste system constantly being drilled into you? And we have to look at, as Sikhs, we do not believe in the caste system. So basically, we have to look about, in Punjab, Sikhs were intentionally made as a minority, and ethnic cleansing was done of them. So we need to now understand what this history is all about. So I would say to the Naujawans, going on to the next slide, that when we read world history, no nation was ever built in 10 or 20 years. Often it takes 50 to 100 years. And when you look at the states of Israel, when you look at how the people in the Americas got freedom from colonial rule and everything, but we have to start thinking ourselves as we are a nation. One day we will have a state, yeah, but we have to also operate as a nation in the nations that we live in. In other words, we need to be law-abiding, we need to be productive, but we need to also preserve our language, we need to preserve our history, we need to preserve our religion, we need to preserve our culture, and not a false culture which is being put on us through singers and everything else, the real culture of what being from the nation of Punjab is all about. So there's so many things that we can discuss, but the key thing is educate yourselves. Realize we are not victims. Yeah, the reason this was done to us so that Sikhs could become victims, and they expected a victim mentality, but they underestimated what Sikhs are. That we are basically, we will always speak up. We will speak. We are a spirit-born nation. We are full of spirit. So the key thing I would say to us, once I was asked a question after one of the lectures that I done, where someone said that Indira Gandhi, she did a lot of nuksan of the Sikh nation. And my response to that was, she tried to do maximum nuksan of the Sikh nation. That's what she tried to do. She tried to wipe it off the face of this earth. But everyone else that's tried to do that beforehand, whether it was during the time of the Chote Sahibzade, the time of Mir Manu, the time of Ahmad Shah Abdali, every time they tried to do that to the Sikh nation came up and came up even stronger. So 50 years after they said that the Sikhs don't even exist in Punjab, and Bhai Bhutta Singh and Garja Singh said, no, we are a nation, we are still here. 50, 60 years later, we had the whole nation of Punjab with the Gursikhs like Bhai Jagjit Singh Ahluwalia, Nawab Kapoor Singh, all of them did their seva and created our whole nation, which was eventually Maharaja Ranjit Singh brought it all together. In the same way, we have to look at it as we are not victims. We are not have a victim mentality. What we are is we are spirit born. We are going to speak up about 84. We are never going to forget 84, because that is when genocide happened to our Qawm, and we're going to speak very loudly about it. And the Indian government have to realize that Sikhs are not going to just disappear. We are there. We do exist. We are part of the fabric of this human society that we all live in. And we, as a nation, we cannot do what our parents did with just be quiet on it. We have to recognize that we as a nation, we should be vocal. Just like the Jews, everyone that bought murder and genocide on their nation, even 50 years later, they found people in Argentina, they found people in various parts of the world who had basically committed genocide. They brought cases against them, etc. We as a nation, Indira Gandhi tried to destroy us, but what actually happened to our Panth through Guru Maharaj's Kirpa, we're now spread throughout the world. You cannot destroy us now. We're in every single country, and we're basically, but the key thing, difference between us now, is that we're now educated. We're now educated in a way that we can express our thoughts to the world. We can talk about this to the world. And that's what they fear. They fear the fact that there's a young nation now that is coming up, that is getting educated, that is speaking up about all of these things. And that's why they're trying to silence us on all media. They're trying to silence us everywhere, because they know themselves, Modi and everyone else knows that what was done to Sikhs was so bad, was so wrong. And that's why even them, they say, even their own Home Minister of India recently admitted it was a genocide that was done to Sikhs. Modi himself has said on previous occasions that Indira Gandhi, the way her tactics were, he constantly tries to basically say that the things that the Gandhi family had done were wrong. So we have to really look at this as Naujawans. My benti to you is don't get caught up in emotion. Do not get caught up in Indian government propaganda or any other propaganda, even if it's Khalistani propaganda. Basically, educate yourself on facts and talk about facts, and basically take the facts to the world, so that we, just like everyone else, the people around the world are recognizing what's happening to black people, and that's why you have Black Lives Matter. And we as Sikhs, as part of our Sikhi, we should be openly talking about their rights and what's happened to them. At the same time, we have also Sikh Lives Matter. We also got to realize that we will never forget 1984. We will never forget 1978. We will never forget anything that's happened up to 1995 and beyond. Because why are you sitting in Australia today? Why are you not taking one of them 2 to 3 million well-paid jobs, which could have been in Chandigarh? The fact that you're sitting there, the fact that we have people with master's degrees who are courier drivers or truck drivers, we have people that are really well educated from the universities of Punjab and India, but they're working menial power jobs, is because these policies were used to displace you, so that you had no other option but to leave Punjab and basically go out to Australia, Canada, UK, and find your future there. So you're living this history. So basically realize what the policies that were done against you, and recognize this is what is our modern Sikh history. So Benji, sorry, I've tried to cover a lot there. So thank you for giving me that time. And we need to be talking about these things more regularly. And we need to talk about what's actually happening in terms of, the Naujawan need to realize, why did their parents have to come out? What was actually happening to them? They had no choice. If any of us, like Benji, yourself, and Baji, you're vocal, I'm vocal, anyone that was vocal was killed. That would just happen. That's what happens in many parts of this world. That's what genocide is about, is that kill the educated, kill the people that are vocal, kill the people that got spirit, and leave everyone else there, and just basically rewrite a new culture, which is what they're doing through the singers. So all these Naujwans that might idolize Sidhu Moosewala, they might idolize Diljit Dosanjh or Gurdas Mann or all the other people, recognize that they're part of a policy to take your Sikhi away from you. They're part of a policy to push a caste system in you and all these other things. Otherwise, next time they come to Melbourne, next time they come to Sydney, openly say to them, why do you constantly mention Jat in every song? It's like they can't even finish a sentence without mentioning the word Jat. They can't even make a film without mentioning the word Jat. It's like this is so drilled into what is being pushed as a policy against us. We are Sikhs. We are the nation of Sikhs. And Punjab is a nation for everybody. It doesn't matter what background you are, if you're from a farming background or you're from any other background. Punjab is a nation of Punjabis, and it's open to everybody, to the world. So we are Khulle Dilali people. We will do langar. We will serve anyone. We have pyar with everyone on this earth. We will speak up against human rights. This is the Mara Guru Nanak Dev Ji's put us on, and Maharaj Kirpa in the next 100, 200 years, that Maharaj's Kirpa, we will carry on as a Sikh nation doing all these wonderful seva.
So Virji, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really powerful presentation. ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਾਨੂੰ I think ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ sometime like ਕਾਫੀ youth ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਕਾਫੀ ਜਾਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਕਿ which book sources ਜਾਂ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ presentation ਜਾਂ information ਜਿਹੜੀ refer ਕਰਨ. But the way that you have put up your presentation, I think starting from the basics, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਿਛੋਕੜ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. So ਸਾਰੀ ਉਹ series of events leading up to 1947, and then from 1947 to 1978, and then leading to 1984 and aftermath of 1984. I think it's been put up in a very serial order ਤੇ ਬੜੇ ਅੱਛੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ events ਨੂੰ present ਕੀਤਾ. I think so in Australia ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੇ presentation ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੋਵੇ or they would like another presentation to happen like sometime after the coronavirus crisis period is over, we can get together. We have the presentation here now. I think it's going to be really useful. ਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੱਟਪੁਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੌਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਚੁੱਕਾ ਹੈ. ਹਰ ਸੈਕਿੰਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੌਂਗ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੱਟਪੁਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ. ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਵੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਹੋਰ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਬੜੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਦੱਸੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਕਿਵੇਂ 1986 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਸਟ 2 ਸਾਲ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੀ 1984 ਦੇ ਹੋਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਮੇਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ. ਸੋ 1986 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਬਾ ਫਰੀਦ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮੇਲੇ ਕਰਾਉਣੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੇ. ਸੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਾਬਾ ਫਰੀਦ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁਸ਼ੋਭਿਤ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਦੇਖੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਮੇਲੇ ਕਰਾ ਕੇ ਸਿੰਗਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਲਾਉਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ. And that was the time when this ਇਹ ਮੇਲਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿੰਗਰਸ ਨੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਜੱਟਵਾਦ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਸੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਤਾ. ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਸੀ ਸੰਤ ਬਾਬਾ ਜਰਨੈਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਪਿੰਡਰਾਂ ਵਾਲੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਭਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਆਪਣੇ ਯੂਥ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਉੱਚਾ ਚੁੱਕ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਪੰਥ ਵੱਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਸੰਚਾਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜਾਤਵਾਦ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਉੱਠਣਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦਾ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇੱਕ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਣਾ ਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਦੈਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਵਨ ਆਫ ਦੇਅਰ ਵੇ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਜੱਟਪੁਣਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਲੋਕੀ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਯੂਥ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਿਆ, ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਪਲੈਨਿੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ। ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਯੂ ਹੈਵ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਐਂਡ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਜੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਖੀ, ਸੋ ਆਈ ਵਿਲ ਸੇ ਕਿ ਗੋ ਥਰੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੈਜੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਂਸ ਅਗੇਨ। ਸੋ ਇਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਇਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਟੂ ਕਨੈਕਟ ਵਿਦ ਆਰ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਤੇ ਉਤੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਸਪੀਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਲਈਏ। ਸਿਰਫ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜੂਨ ਦੇ ਦਿਹਾੜੇ ਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾ ਸੋਚ ਕੇ ਗਵਾ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਹੀ ਜੂਨ ਦਾ ਸਾਲ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਹੈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਹੀ ਮਿਲਣੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਇਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ। ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਰਿਸੋਰਸਿਸ ਨੇ। ਗੋ ਥਰੂ ਦਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਜੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ, ਦੇਰ ਆਰ ਸੋ ਮੈਨੀ ਬੁੱਕਸ। ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਇਫ ਯੂ ਆਰ, ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਗਲੋਬਲੀ ਹੈ, ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਭਾਈ ਜਗਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਫਰਮ UK। ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖਸ ਨੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਨੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ, ਕਮ ਆਊਟ, ਆਪਣੇ 'ਚ ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ ਉਹ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਓ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਘੱਲੂਘਾਰੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਨਾ ਹੈ। ਇਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ। ਜਿੰਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੁਰ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਨ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਸੋ ਓਨਾ ਹੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਹੈ, ਆਪਣੇ ਘੱਲੂਘਾਰਿਆਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਜਾਣਨਾ। ਉੱਥੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸ਼ਹੀਦੀ ਦੀ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ, ਤੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੌਮ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮਰਨ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਜ਼ਬਾ ਹੈ, ਉੱਥੋਂ ਹੀ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। So Veerji, just before we close up this conversation, any other comments you would like to add?
Das ਇੰਨਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ it's very important to absorb information. ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ, they put questions and I will try and do my best to answer as many of the questions, because that's how part of the education process is, that basically you absorb information, you then go back, think about it, you put your questions down, and then we'll try and answer your questions. It makes no difference to me if someone becomes a Khalistani or someone becomes pro-Indian government. And I'm not here to create bias. I'm not here to influence your lives. What I'm simply here to do is that this is a part of our history. And the fact that you're living in the nations that you are is because this history happened. So as for any community, we have to understand what is the root causes of why we are here doing what we are doing. And therefore you have to understand that the people, Sikhs, are spread throughout the world because of a genocide that happened to Sikhs. And the people that did that genocide, many of them are still alive and they're still in positions of power. And part of this genocide is still happening in Punjab through drugs, through various other things. And while you might go back to Punjab and you might think, yeah, this is a nice holiday and this is a nice thing, the reality is that Punjab is very different from what it used to be. And therefore we have to understand what's happening around us. And so educate yourselves, arm yourself with knowledge, and realize that you are part of this spirit-born nation.
Yeah. I think well said, Veerji, and I think that's a great wrap up to close this presentation. Once again, thank you very much. I'll just request anyone, so we've got some questions here. So Dr. Saran, she's asking where we can access the presentation. So Penji, I've got this presentation with me, and I know you've got my contact. We can always share the presentation. We can always catch up with few more people, and we can talk about this. And I think it's very important ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਗਰੁੱਪਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਐਜੂਕੇਟ ਕਰੀਏ। ਸੋ ਆਈ ਵੋਂਟ ਟੇਕ ਮੋਰ ਆਫ ਦਿਸ ਟਾਈਮ। ਸੋ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਵੰਸ ਅਗੇਨ, ਐਂਡ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਰਾਤ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੌਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਹੀਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਿਓ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਖਾਸ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਸੋਚਿਓ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਦਿਨ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹਰਿਮੰਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਉਸ ਹਦੂਦ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ, ਉਸ ਪਾਵਨ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਸਥਾਨ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਉਸ ਭਾਰਤੀ ਹਕੂਮਤ ਨੇ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਢੇਰ ਲਗਾ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਬੇਅਦਬੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਾਰਾ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੋਇਆ, ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਭਾਈ ਭੈਣ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਇਸ ਦਿਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਹੋਏ, ਤੇ ਕਈਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਈਆਂ ਦੇ ਅਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਤੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਜਣੇ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਹੋਏ ਆ। ਸੋ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਅਣਗਿਣਤ ਸ਼ਹੀਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਣਾਮ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਅੱਗੇ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਹੀਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦੇਣ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰੀਏ ਤੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਸੇਧ ਲਈਏ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਹੀ ਸ਼ਬਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।